my viewers know me, Sebastian Rose, and Kimberly. Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Kimberly Isherwood.
Okay, and what you do? Tell me actually why have we met today?
We have met today because I've set up an organisation called Public Child Protection Wales. I'm a qualified criminologist. I've got a lot of qualifications in perpetrators of abuse, child sex abuse, exploitation, harmful sexual behaviour, vulnerable adults, children with special needs. Part of my team, we've got child psychologists, a psychologist, a doctor in adverse childhood experiences. We've got counsellors. We've got positive thinking. We've also had recently forensic psychologists join us as well. So we are very well trained in these fields. We've joined forces now to create this organisation to fight the sex education that's come into this country. We're not fighting sex education and we're not fighting safeguarding. What we are fighting is this sex education because it doesn't do what it says on the tin. We've spotted barriers to disclosure. The lesson contents is awful. It really is awful. The further back you go, the worse it gets. And that is the reason why we formed this organisation now. We've watched this education roll across the world. We've seen it unfold.
You're talking about you're talking about the whole WHO guidelines and everything, yeah? Which is coming. Did it start in England already last year? Did it? I know you're supposed to, but
yes,
you did, yeah.
Yes, they actually started All About Me package in England, and that was piloted in 241 schools. That was sexual stimulation for 6-year-olds, and at the bottom of that, it was telling children you do not do it in a classroom. Now, for me, as a criminologist and a specialist in child sex abuse and exploitation, that line, by telling a child not to do it in a classroom, they have just potentially trapped a child in abuse because they've programmed a child into behaving a certain way. Now, children do masturbate, play with themselves, and sometimes that's innocent. But there's also cases where they do it because they're being neglected or they're being sexually abused. So what this curriculum is doing is blanket teaching children that they can play with themselves. As long as, from the age of 6, as long as they do it on their own. So there'll be children in this classroom now that are not even into that. They don't touch themselves in that way. But these children are being told it is sexual pleasure, not a biological reaction to touch, but sexual pleasure. And they're also getting told as well that whatever feels good, they should always listen to their body. And part of that then includes sexual rights. So it's a child's sexual right to consent. It's a child's sexual right to participate in these pleasurable activities, which they are calling sexual pleasure, when obviously it is biological reaction. We've got a lot of problems with these documents. It's very much just sex throughout them all. By the time the children are 9, they're expected to participate in sexual intercourse. As you know, that's very dangerous. There is no health in these documents at all. All they talk about is condoms and anal sex as a way of avoiding pregnancy. They do not tell children about, like females, for instance. Females have a low immune system when they're on their period. They don't tell girls that you are more prone to STIs when your immune system is lower because of your period. They don't tell young girls that when you have sex, there's a biochemistry reaction, which you will develop attachment from the man's chemicals that he gives off. So you've got an emotional attachment there. It's never just sex. The sex education that's currently in England before this legislation is already damaging children. So right now, children can be given the morning after pill anyway, and they can be taken for an abortion. Now, there's been serious case reviews in England where children have been involved in grooming gangs. They've been involved in paedophile rings. They've been having sex with teachers, and all of that could have been prevented or stopped if the parents had known of the treatments the schools were taking the children for. So we've already got problems in place anyway. But this law now, this law that they're bringing in for this sex education removes parental rights, and it puts the children's sexual rights above the parental rights.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you because until last year, I believe you could, as a parent, you could opt out from the sexual education. Yeah, you could say no, I don't want my children to take part in those lessons, but that's not the case anymore, is it?
No, not anymore. At the moment, in England, so the legislation is sex education from age 3. But at the moment in England, because of these campaigns, they've allowed parents now to take their children from the primary children from the lessons. They've also set up a sex education panel thing where parents can be involved in. Now, that does nothing for that legislation. That policy can change overnight. We can go back to the document they were using 2 years ago overnight. That legislation is staying there. The last time legislation was changed in education was 20 years ago. You know, so this is a very serious piece of legislation to bring in and satisfy the parents with a little bit of policy. You know, I've done, like I said, I've been into perpetrators of abuse, and as you know, that exists in secrecy. So this year alone now, from September to December in Wales, there were 25 fitness to practice panels for teachers on the Education Council. 8 of those were for sexual incidents. They were sexually motivated. Now, that's a lot. Now, bearing in mind, the schools have been closed for a year. People haven't been working for a year. That's a high number out of those 25. You know, so by shutting parents off and keeping the kids in local authority, that is very dangerous. And to me, I see then a model of offending. So a model of offending for a perpetrator, their first issue would be removal of the parents. This education does that. This legislation does that. So to me, that is an alarm as well. That's alarming because of my understanding of perpetrators, you know?
So yeah, like I mentioned before, from last year is compulsory in England. I know it's coming to Wales from next year, I believe, like every school, every primary school. And then what's the solution to that? We spoke a little bit before, and I said my solution, I told you, is maybe cowardly bit solution, but we, as a group of Polish parents here in Wrexham, we decided to withdraw our children as soon as possible from the school, because we don't want them to sit in the classes like you just described. Or maybe you have better solution. Tell us about your, what you're gonna do about it.
You're absolutely right. It does feel like there's nothing we can do about it. We've watched this roll out into 52 countries. We are one of the last to get it. I suspect that's why we've had the legislation first. But we have to be the first country in the world to overturn it, Sebastian. We are a small country, which means we can get to north and south in a day. We can get from east to west in a day. I have faith. The issue we have is the Welsh people don't know. The Welsh people voted in overwhelming numbers, 97% the first time, 87.6% the second time didn't want it. The first online consultation didn't want it. The second orientation, they didn't even include it, but we mentioned it. And they've also rejected our petition. Now, we are a passionate country, and I just think that when the country actually knows what is going on, I think Wales could have a standing chance here. You know, going back into history, we did the Romans on our own. We can do an education policy, you know. I think once people understand the severity of this, I have to be hopeful that Wales can lead by example here, because if Wales can overturn this, we won't just make history the first country in the world to do it, but England will be able to do it. And then so will Scotland be able to do it. And then the UK will be the first place in the world to actually protect their children from this. Because as we're being told, this is supposed to be relationship-based and safeguarding-based. It's very much not that. It is nowhere near that. We have the professionals on hand, we have the evidence, we have the science, we have everything to back us, and we just have to fight it. We've been going down outside the Senate every time they're doing something on the bill. So we're hoping now to get, if we can bring Cardiff to a standstill, we can do it. You know, it's about getting people understanding the severity of it. But the problem has been around the world. A lot of people have had problems with the LGBT aspect of it. So that's where the campaigns have come from. And those campaigns have stemmed from there, and they met with well-funded lobbyist groups. So they are fighting over something that isn't the real issue here. The real issue is the safeguarding. That's where the science is. That's where the facts are, and that's where we need to target. So I think that's why we are so strong compared to other campaigns, so quick, because we're not coming up against these well-funded lobbyist groups. Because what we are working with is the science, the biological science, the biochemistry, the safeguarding, the perpetrators of abuse. We're not playing their games. We're not getting caught up in their rows, their excuses to bring this in, because this is sex has nothing to do with relationships, and sex has nothing to do with safeguarding. Safeguarding is a specialist subject, and we've got a specialist team, and we have to be hopeful, Sebastian. We have to be hopeful that getting this message out there will be the thing. We've proven beyond reasonable doubt. We've done extensive investigations. So on our website, we've got government correspondence, freedom of information requests. We've gone into detail. We've proven beyond reasonable doubt that our government is not delivering a Welsh curriculum. They are delivering a global curriculum. We also have emails that take us through to English resources, when that school told us it was strictly RSE for that Welsh school. So I'm really hopeful it's a case of the people getting the correct information. Because the government have also launched a campaign against us for misinformation, but we've presented them going off 17 pieces of evidence. They haven't addressed any of the evidence. They're trying to sweep it under the carpet and hope we'll go away. So we've proven we're not a gang of angry, proud parents. We've proven we're not crazy religious people, as they like to label you. We've proven we're not homophobic, and I'm really hopeful that our approach, because like I said, we've watched these campaigns around the world fail, but we understand the real issue here, the proper issue. This has nothing to do with relationships, it's child safeguarding, and we are sticking with that, and we are fighting with that. And what we've got as well, we've got a really good LGBT following, we've got a really good religious following. We are hoping that we can unite everyone on the child protection front. We're hoping that we can show people this is nothing to do with diversity. This is nothing to do with biology, you know, because if you really want to teach children about their reproductive organs, you can do that through biology at a young age. You know, you've got no issues knowing the dogs are mating. It's no different, Sebastian, you know. The first and foremost thing here should be, your brain isn't fully matured until 25. So we should be teaching the children how to protect themselves, understand their hormones, understand the change in their feelings, understand how their bodies develop. And that's what we should be teaching children. That's what we should be teaching them. You know, these documents are full of consent and things like that. And I see this sinister tone through it all. That's what I see, and I shouldn't be seeing that in an education document.
Kim, I admire your passion. I fully support you. And like you said, what we can do now is the most important, to spread the word. I can promise you, I will spread the word during the mostly like Polish communities in here, because we much more conservative people than I don't know if they're Welsh, but definitely more conservative than English people. And like you said, yeah, I will try my best. I will include some links to your website. I would include links to your YouTube channel. I know you there, so yeah, I will try my best to help.
Thank you very much. That's all we want. We just want people, I think once people see, like what we've got is evidence, and when people actually see it with their own eyes, it's hard to unsee then, isn't it? It's easy to tell someone, oh, this is for the best, this is to look after children, this is about being nice. It's easy to say that, but we want proof, you know, and this is very much what we are going for, is proof. We want evidence.
Exactly. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.